Let me show you how to turn some simple bass notes into a beautiful R&B sample. You guys really liked the last Isaiah Falls video. Even Isaiah and his team really liked it. If you're watching this as well, please drop the album, bro, I need it. In this video, we'll get into the more bouncy side of Isaiah Falls production, again by breaking down one of my samples. I feel like one of the most important things about Isaiah's samples is a catchy bass line. You can especially hear that on the snippets he's been posting on Instagram. Stop falling for pretty women. So for this sample I actually started with the bass. It can seem pretty hard to start like that, but it also gives you so much freedom because you're not limited by any chord progressions or melodies. I think they also started with the bass for his Diva song, which has a very similar vibe.
Some like...
So the main thing for this bass line is pretty much just this. And for the sound I used that very clean bass you just heard. I layered that with a one-shot that has a bit more high end. And then also used this stompy kind of bass sound to emphasize the first beats. Of course I cut out the low end of the layers. You don't really want to layer very deep frequencies because that will just make everything sound muddy. Yeah, once I had this bass line, I knew the sample was gonna be dope because I was already bobbing my head with only having the bass sound. Next I added a pad. Melodically I kept it very simple, only playing the chords that fit the bass notes, but I added some detail by layering a few sounds. I used this one shot as like the main sound of the pad and layered it with this one shot which is pitched up an octave, and I layered those with another one shot which only plays the bass notes to give it a bit more low mid frequencies and make it sound thicker. For effect we have an EQ to take out lows and highs, a crystallizer for a more atmospheric sound, fruity flanges, by now you probably know I put that on everything, just gives a really beautiful drowned out kind of sound, and then some reverb. And to make it sound a bit more interesting and add more movement, I added some automations. First the volume automation on the main pad sound, because I felt like adding a bit of rhythm. Then I automated the wet level of the crystallizer to add some movement and make it kind of fade in and out. And then some very subtle pitch wobbles on the main sound. I just want to emphasize when you listen to the sample, of course you won't immediately hear stuff like the layering and all the automations, but stuff like that really gives your samples character because you can add all these unique details without overcrowding the samples and adding lots of sounds. Because at the end of the day you want your samples to be simple and unique, and that's exactly how you can achieve that. Next I added a guitar layer, and for that I used this wah pedal. This thing is the secret weapon for Isaiah Falls samples. You can hear it all over his songs. This one that I got was only like 60 euros, I think. I'm sure they use more expensive ones, but I'm very happy with mine. It does its job very well. But you probably don't have one. And I'll be honest, you probably won't get the exact same sound, but you can get pretty close. You can use the auto filter in Guitar Rig, for example, the SpongeBob looking one. Or if you have too much time on your hands, you could use automations. Because technically a wah pedal is pretty much just a bandpass filter that you can modulate with your foot. So for this layer I only played the two main chords. We have a great foundation now, so next I added some melodic textures. I have a few different layers. For the first one I used the sine lead. I couldn't really find a nice melody, so I used effects like Portal to make it sound weirder and more like a texture. Then I used a very cool trick that I learned from a video by Raz or Raz. I'm not gonna go into detail, but I used a piano with convolution reverb, and when you drag in random stuff into that reverb, you can get very cool, unique echoes and textures. Then I also added a texture one shot that I've already made before. If you also want to use textures like these, but you're too lazy to make them, or you just want some quick drag and drop inspiration, you can check out my Lucid Weekly subscription. You'll get a new sample pack every week. These include textures, phrases, percussion loops, melody layers, and also full samples and starters. It's only $5 a month, the link is in the description. Then I added some percussion stuff to add some more rhythm and bounce. And I wanted something that stands out a bit, and for that I did some I recorded 4 layers of the breathing stuff and then also used some slices of a percussion loop and a rim shot. So that's everything for the first section. As you can see, the only thing that really stands out is the bass line, and I used everything else to kind of just accompany the bass and fill in the spaces. For the next section I wanted to add some vocals, and I wanted something similar to the Gold on My Teeth song. Of course I didn't just want to copy that, and I thought it could be pretty interesting to chop up some more melodic vocals, so I used these.
Puff of smoke and then I'm pulling up to your place. Different type of feeling when I look at your face. Make me love again. Can you make me love again?
First I stretch them to the BPM, pitch them down to the right key, and then I chop them up. For effects we have a bandpass EQ, a transient shaper to emphasize the choppiness a bit, a radiator for some grit and saturation, another EQ, and then some reverb and delay. As you could hear, for that section I completely took out the pad and the guitar to make it sound more empty and leave the focus only on the bass and the vocals and only keep the bouncy elements. And for the last section I kinda did the opposite and made it more atmospheric. First I got rid of that stompy bass layer to take out a bit of the energy, and I also switched up the end of the bass line just a little bit to add more variation, and of course I also adjusted the chords to that. I was playing around a while to find some melodies, but I felt like nothing really fits or feels right, so instead of one melody layer that plays the entire time, I decided to add some little accents and moments. First I used the wah guitar again and played in a very simple lick. And then I wanted to add a chord run at the end of the pattern to really give it that beautiful, soulful R&B kind of sound. And this may look and sound like many different complicated chords, but a little trick that I use for that is just playing each chord twice, but with different variations. And honestly, you don't have to think about the theory too much for that. I just put down the bass notes for the chords we already have in the pad and played around with the top notes until I got the sound I wanted. For the effects, I'm just making it sound a bit trippier with flangers and a phaser, and then just some reverb in the cue. And to finish it off, I just layered the last 2 chords with a sine pad, just to add a bit more tension and build up at the end. I used the devil lock to make it sound a bit grittier and make it stand out more, give it a bit more high end, and a cue to cut out the lows, and of course fruity flangers. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video could inspire you. I don't really have anything to say. Check out Lucid Weekly. Let me know what you want to see next. And yeah, thanks for watching.